Hey guys, and welcome back. Now today we are going to take a quick look at this 1080 curved 24-inch budget display, and let's go for it. And we are back. So usually I do start all my videos with a very quick unboxing experience, but in this particular case we're going to skip that because the unboxing in this particular case, it's not very attractive. The only thing that I can share with you guys is that it comes well protected, and that's about it. Now let's start with the assembly, but before that I just want to share a question that some of you guys may have, which is this display does not have any VESA mount. So I know that this is very important for some of you guys, like it is for me. I do use VESA mount on some displays, I don't use on others, so depending on how we are going to use this might be a deal breaker or not. Sorry about that. Now moving on, in terms of the assembly, we will find a base and a standing arm in this particular case, which is actually solid. Usually there are some cheap or budget displays that bring plastic pieces and so on and so forth. Here we are seeing metallic on the arm and metallically also on the base. Now, as you guys have had the chance to see, we only need to screw a few screws right over there, 4 to be more precise, and then we can start using it. Now in terms of adjustments, there's only a very little room for adjustment, which in this particular case it's only swivel, as you guys can see on screen, only a few degrees, but I do believe honestly that it will be enough for most users. There is no height adjustment, so if we need to move it up, for example, we will need a stand to lift this particular display. Now in terms of connectivity, this display is really simple. It has a HDMI output with a maximum resolution of 1080 at 60 Hz, one VGA and one power input. Now once we power it on, we can start using it, of course, and the first thing that I would like to share here is the menu or OSD and the buttons. Now we will find first of all on the screen here 5 buttons: menu, up, down, exit, and turn on or turn off. One curious and interesting thing is that every time that we press one of the buttons, it will show all the menu right on the button that we want to use, so this is really helpful. And once we start using the menu, we will face a Chinese only menu, but it's actually really simple to check how to change the language, and we will find several languages like English, Portuguese, and so on and so forth, so we just need to choose the one that is most appropriate for us. Now we will also find basic options like brightness, contrast, a few presets there, aspect, color, temperature, basic OSD options like the ones that we saw, for example, changing languages and so on and so forth, reset, source input. So it is a pretty basic display, budget display with a basic menu. But if you ask me, hey Robert, is it easy to use? My opinion, it is that it's easy enough to use. All I need to do is press one button, because I know that in a few weeks I will not recall which button I will use, even having the symbols right over here. But if I press it right now, I will have everything that I need to know right over here, any shortcut that I need, anything that I want to do. So it's pretty easy to use in my opinion, although it's not the best one that I've seen, but if I compare prices, there's no comparison possible as well. In terms of image quality, which is one of the most important factors on any device with a display, and in this particular case, which is only a display. Now this is a VA panel, so in terms of color reproduction, it's inferior to IPS, but also superior to TN panels. Nonetheless, I'm surprised, or I was surprised, not anymore right now, because it delivers great colors. It has a matte display with a really nice curve that I really enjoy actually, and looking straight at it, it shows really nice colors and contrast at 1080 with 60 Hz, which is the maximum resolution of this display. And when we start to turn it into more aggressive angles, as I will show you guys on screen, then we will see some color going washed, some color shift, if I can mention like this. And although most times we will never use those angles, to be honest, it's nice to see that a budget display will hang really well to these colors, both horizontally and vertically. So in my opinion, guys, although it's not an IPS, because an IPS is much brighter and also hangs more on weird angles, like I do have 3 right over here and 1 at the back. But for a VA panel, I was surprised how well it hung on the color, especially on weird angles. And at this moment you got a angle which is not straight, so as you guys can see, it handles really well. In terms of the bezels, what I can say is that they should be, or they could be, smaller, but once again, always comparing to something that I'm used to use. If I compare to one of my displays right at the back, the LG 27UD 88W and the 68W right over here, the bezels are more or less the same, and we are talking about 500 and 650 euros displays, so a huge gap in prices. And if I compare the bezels, the size is more or less the same, so only 1 or 2 millimeters in difference. And I'm not really sure if this one is smaller than that one or bigger than that one, because I didn't measure. But when I look at it, I see no difference in terms of bezels, nothing huge at least. Now moving to light bleed and defects on the panel, I did a few tests, and what I can say, guys, is that in terms of real usage, when we are using this display working or gaming and so on and so forth, I didn't notice anything, and I did show on camera as well. And doing the tests, we can see something, but as you guys can see, it's nothing serious. Now actually, to get it on the camera, I did had to crank up my ISO almost to the maximum, so have in mind some image degradation and some color shifting right over there. Nonetheless, we can actually see some light bleed, especially on a black background. And if you take close advantage there, once again, have in mind the high ISO that I'm using on camera, but we can see a little bit on the bottom left and also on the right. Nothing serious, but it's there, which is also usual on these displays. And I've had on more expensive displays more light bleed than we have right over here. Now, in terms of dead pixels, which is one of the things that concerns me most, I did test it out, and actually there's no dead pixels. So the quality control is not that bad on this particular TCL brand, which is the first time that I'm testing it out. And actually, guys, if you ask me, okay, Robert, you were lucky. Okay, so if I was lucky, I was lucky 3 times in a row, because I'm testing out 3 of these displays for the setup that I'm going to use upstairs. But right now I'm testing it here on the office on a gaming setup thing, and I did test all of them the same way for dead pixels, light bleed, and so on and so forth. So all of them are okay in terms of dead pixel, because there's none. And in the past, once again, comparing always, I've had brands that I had to return a few displays because one dead pixel here, one dead pixel there, which is nothing serious, but it's really annoying on a display. And here I'm really glad that they paid attention to quality control and deliver, or are delivering, panels without dead pixels in them. Now, one more thing that I would like to point out while I was doing these tests in terms of dead pixels and so on and so forth is that on camera the test colors look really awful and really off. But in this particular case, what I can say is that once I do lower the ISO values, then we start getting a more real image to what I can see with my eyes. This is something that it's sometimes difficult to explain right over there, because what I can see with my eyes right over here is not exactly what the camera captures, depending on the settings. Because if I need to light up that camera to get a lighter picture, and if I need to light it up to bring the light bleed and dead pixels count and so on and so forth, I will have a different kind of image that I see with my eyes. So hopefully you guys can understand that with any display on any case scenario, once we start to messing up with the camera settings, we will not transmit to that side of the screen the real thing. And as you guys can see, the blues, reds and greens get some weird effects on the lens, which is something that I don't see. What I can say is that the colors here are really nice, contrasty, not as good as an IPS display, not as bad as a TN panel, but for a VA, really happy for the price that it costs at this moment. And that is it. So in terms of conclusion, guys, is this a perfect panel? I don't believe so. There's missing some things that could, or some details that could improve the display, like a cable management part right at the back. We get the cables all disorganized, so I will need to figure out how I will place the cables on a tidy way. The bezels probably could be a bit smaller, but once again, comparing to other more expensive displays, I don't really get it. Now the quality of the display is great for the price. I do believe that it's worth it, especially for those of you that want a triple display setup, which I will share in a few days, for gaming and even for working tasks. Then I do believe that although it's not perfect, it is really great for the price, and I'm surprised. Also the design, I really enjoyed this particular design with the curved display. So here I've got nothing to complain in terms of quality. And the thing that I was most concerned about was image quality, which is more than acceptable, and of course no dead pixels right over here. One thing that I mentioned on the beginning, it has no VESA mount. So if any of you guys need a VESA mount for some reason, like I do on these three displays, then this is not the best option to get at this moment. Guys, that is it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget that usual thumbs up. My name is Roberto, and as always, I'll see you guys on the next one.